I wish to segue, if I may, to the United States. Both United States vis-a-vis Israel as policies and actions, not statements, vis-a-vis Israel, and United States policies that as regards its own security and other issues. As we said, one has to judge the various players and actors on the field by their actions, not by their words.
Correct.
The United States, the current Biden administration, and this is not a joke, by the way. This is
no, I know that it's just
it's absolutely serious. I saw recently somewhere someone pointed out that Barack Hussein Obama, Shem Roshaim Yirkav,
Amen.
Out of character for former U.S. presidents, has a residence in Washington, D.C.
He's still in control.
And this person pointed out there's a very simple reason for this, and that's because this entire current administration is Biden is a demented sock puppet. He's just a figurehead for this so-called administration, but it's really Obama and his people who are pulling the strings and making the decisions.
This is the third
Obama administration. There's even, unfortunately, the possibility of a fourth in the form of Michelle Obama. And that's something too horrific to even contemplate. So this current administration, the Biden administration, is essentially ordering Israel to commit suicide. They are now speaking openly about at least the possibility, and if they're speaking about it so loudly, and if the UK Foreign Secretary Cameron also has spoken about this of late,
and now Macron has done it as well.
So there you go. So and this is obviously not something left to chance. It's not coincidental.
No, this is coordinated.
If they are discussing, recognizing unilaterally a so-called Palestinian state in the annals of history, what they did to our country, they imported many of these people from surrounding countries in order to create some kind of tax base,
an economy.
Yeah, and that was the entire story. This has been documented by various researchers and historians, such as Joan Peters in her book From Time Immemorial.
It's an excellent book.
I have the book. It's I've read it, including all the footnotes, and that's a hard read, but I did it many years ago. Yes, of course, there are people who claim that the figures there are not true. But actually, I became aware recently of a 90-year-old Israeli historian, a woman who recently published 2 volumes in Hebrew on this on these matters. In other words, who actually lived in this country over the last several centuries. In fact, it's not just several centuries. She actually begins from the year 640, according to the.
I have the books. There are 2 volumes.
Yeah, 2 volumes.
Right? Yeah, I have them.
Her name is a double-barreled, complicated name. I don't recall, but I saw it. I saw this discussed in an interview, and yes,
I have them right over there.
She also produced all the facts and figures based on official statistics, archives, etc. As much to the extent that they exist, and they do exist to some extent. Less so in the Ottoman period, more so in the British period. But to get
where
back,
they really came flooding in,
and that was a deliberate policy, and she herself says so. And it should be pointed out, this woman is neither religious neither right wing, neither religious nor right wing, I should say. She self-identifies as secular, as having always belonged to and identified with the socialist labor Zionist movement. In other words, Mapai, Ben Gurion, etc., etc. She doesn't like the Likud. She doesn't like Netanyahu. She was fairly open about that. She didn't lambast them, but she was fairly open about that. But she said there's no. She herself has nevertheless realized and reached the conclusion that it's impossible to live with those who wish to exterminate you under
Correct.
any circumstances, in any possible constellation of events and realities. So, to get back to what we were discussing, an ally, supposedly an ally, the United States, shall we say, insisting that a Palestinian, so-called Palestinian state be recognized and established right next door, knowing what we know and knowing what they know, and they know everything they need to know in order to know that this would bring about Israel's demise. It's clear, again, based on their actions, that their intention is to bring about the destruction of Israel. No question about it.
Whenever you reward terrorism, what you're doing in this case is endorsing the continuation of that terrorism. And in the form of a state, a terror state, that's when you're calling for the demise of Israel, because Israel becomes untenable at that case. So they know this.
They know this, and that therefore the only possible conclusion is that is their aim, that is their purpose.
Correct.
And there's no question that within the American deep state, certainly parts of the NSA, based on the revelations of our friend Bruce Brill and others, and certainly the State Department, and now in the current Biden administration, it's everywhere. It's like a virus. It's spread to all parts of the administration. Increasingly the view and the visceral desire to see the destruction of the state of Israel is more and more apparent to any reasonable and objective observer.
There are two individuals that we should mention within this context. We back up a little bit. As you know, as our viewers know, the Americans and the Europeans have been banging the drum about Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, that they are, that the Israeli government should get rid of them because they're extremists. They're
racist,
two
fascist,
individuals that
racist and fascist and
racist, fascist,
yes,
opposed to a Palestinian state. Okay, well, the funny thing is, there are two people in the American administration that you could assign such characteristics to more appropriately, and they are, and a lot of people are shocked when I reveal this to them. A young guy, relatively young guy by the name of Machon Shilo. Who is this guy? Well, he's the director for intelligence of the National Security Council.
Can you give us the name again?
Maher, Maher, Bitar, Bitar.
Maher Bitar, yes.
Right. And he has a very interesting background. When he was at Georgetown, he was the president of the Students for Justice in Palestine. He was a very prominent BDS activist, and he was an employee of UNRWA.
Oh, UNRWA.
Yeah, you remember UNRWA?
Well,
okay.
Remind me to say something about that in a moment. Yes.
All right. So he is responsible, basically, for providing the president with his daily brief in the morning. And so when you wonder, where is Biden getting these crazy notions of us acting over the top and indiscriminate bombing in Gaza and rising levels of settler violence with village after village of peaceful Palestinian people being burned to the ground and people being dispossessed of their housing and everything else. Well, he's one of them. The other one,
It should be pointed out that all of those claims and accusations are purely fictitious.
it's a blood libel.
There is no factual basis to any of those claims.
None. And the other guy, his name is Hady Amir, Hadyamr. He's in charge of a department.
Hady Amr.
Amir, correct. He's in charge of a State Department section charged with developing U.S. policy towards the Palestinians. He has a vile record, an open, vile record of supporting Hamas and even justifying suicide bombing. You can find it on the web. I mean, it's all out in the open.
What are these two? So the first person was, you said, a director of intelligence
of the National Security Council. This is an incredibly
can you explain perhaps
position.
to our viewers what is the NSC?
The NSC, I think, could best be described as the White House think tank for strategy and intelligence matters. It occupies a separate building in close proximity to the White House, but they're really in charge of policy. The State Department, the Pentagon, yes, they all have responsibilities for geostrategic policies and other aspects of American strategic policy, global strategic policy. But it's the NSC that's responsible really for drafting policy for the president. And as far as
this current president needs all the help he can get.
It's the last guy in the room that talks to him that he'll remember. But this guy, Hady Amr, he was known when Biden was forming his government. Actually, both this Maher Bitar and Amir were both known. And there was a lot of discussion about whether they should be stopped or not. But this guy, Amir, Hady Amir, works through a section here in the embassy that's charged with the liaison, the American diplomatic liaison with the Palestinians. They're horrible. These are two of the three people that have been the authors, if you will, of this blood libel about settler violence. The other one we talked to last week, this Lieutenant General Michael Fenzel of the U.S. Security Coordinator for Israel and the Palestinian Authority, the USSC, so to speak. These three people are the ones, the originators of this vile lie of settler violence, and that they're pogromists.
There is no difference. There is no difference between these baseless claims and the blood libels against Jews in Europe and in the Middle East, by the way, it should be noted, throughout the Muslim world as well. These in the Middle Ages, down to very recent times.
Correct. And what has our government done? By all rights, our government should say, hey, before you start pointing the fingers at legitimate politicians like Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, you better look at your own government. We won't even mention, the people like AOC and the other members of the squad, so to speak, Rashid Tlaib and all the rest of them. We haven't mentioned that. Let's look at who's in the executive branch. People like this Bitar and Hady Amir. You look at these people, we shouldn't have anything to do with them. And frankly, you can add Blinken as well. This man has gone around, as you surmised, coordinating this whole effort to unilaterally create a Palestinian state, creatio ex nihilo, out of nothing. And yet we have a government in the form of Bibi and the rest of his crew in the war cabinet, which is a misnomer, that is not preemptive, that is not preventive, that isn't warning everybody that if you go forward with this attempt at murdering us or having us commit suicide, these are the consequences that will befall you. All I've waited for was Bibi to just make a simple statement that if you go forward with this ill-advised plan, you are tearing the Oslo Agreement up, which is predicated on only the Israelis and the Palestinians hammering out some kind of resolution of the issues of whether there should be a Palestinian state or not. There's dimensions,
This is
a
explicit.
fool's errand. Anyway.
This is explicit in those accursed Oslo
Yes,
Accords.
and the U.S. signed off on that. I hate to say this, but the U.S. is a guarantor of this fact. The
Really?
U.S. is a guarantor.
Well, there you go. You've shocked me
I know
again.
it's shocking.
You've shocked me again.
There, see? So all Bibi has to say is keep going down this road. If you do this, then these are the consequences. You've torn the Oslo Agreement up, fine. So we're in a new environment now. We'll declare sovereignty over the Jordan River Valley, clear it up and restrict. Is that what you want? Is that really what you want? Because if it is, we'll be more than happy to satisfy you.
How nice it would be if we had the kind of leadership that had the gumption to actually take such steps and make such statements.
The words are very simple. They're very simple. The words and sentiments and ideas are very simple. It's just you've got to have a heart and a backbone and a sense of Jewish self-respect in order to utter them. So we don't have that at all. And again, I keep repeating this. This is what has to change by way of the next election. Simple as that. Do you really want to commit suicide nationally? No. Look,
speaking of committing suicide nationally, I think I would like to move on to the United States, but I fear I just cut you off unintentionally.
No, it's okay. The choice, and I've made this choice rather dramatically in front of crowds that I've addressed. 2 flags. One has the Mogan David and the Kachol Lavan, the blue and white, and one that has the blue and white washed out, and it's simply a flag of surrender. The choice is yours. Choose wisely.
Yes, a very good point.